I was going to make this video sooner. I've basically been sitting on it ever since the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct wrapped up. But now I think I'm ready to talk about it because I've had time to take it all in, see all the reactions, see all the news, all the different updates, and digest it so that I could come back with a measured response to how I'm feeling about all this. I am talking about game key cards. Now, just before I fully dive into this, what I will say is that when it comes to game key cards, I want to make it clear, and this is something that I was confused about at first. Not all games are going to be on game key cards. And what I've been trying to do is figure out the reason as to why this is. Why are some games going to be on key cards and some games not? And I think I now have like a good response to why that might be. And I've also been trying to figure out like the positivity around this because there's actually a lot of people who think this is a good thing, and I don't want to judge them too harshly. I really do want to understand this. So now that I think I understand where they're coming from, I think I can provide what I believe is a measured response to this horrible feature. Yes, I maintain that it's horrible. All right, let's get into it. So, what is a game keycard? Essentially, Nintendo Switch 2 supports regular game cartridges like we have now with a game present on them, and these new game keycards. Now, these are different from regular cartridges because they don't contain the full game data. Now, Nintendo is not the first studio to do this, okay? There have been plenty of studios that have released basically an empty disc that tells your online service provider on your console, like, hey, this person definitely bought the game and you can totally let them download it from our servers. That is essentially what's going on here. After the game is downloaded, you can play it just like you would any other game, and you don't need an online connection more than one time. You'll need it the first time to verify everything, and then you can just play it. You can have the cartridge in the game, in the console, and you can just play the game like normal. The game itself not being on the cartridge, but having to go out and buy a physical cartridge is my first problem with this, okay? Because you got in your car, you drove to the place, you paid your money for a physical thing, and you brought it home, and then you get to start your download. So that's like one nice benefit to digital downloads is in a lot of cases for new games even, you can have the game on your console and then the minute it launches, you've already installed it. It's just kind of a nice perk of digital. But if you opt for this new physical way to buy the games, you lose out on that benefit. And then at the end of it, you still have basically a digital only game. Now on the flip side, you have a game that you can resell. This does in a sort of kind of pseudo way protect the used game market because Nintendo has made it clear that the key on the cartridge is not married to your Nintendo account. Now, the reason this works is because you don't need an internet connection, right? Like I said, it's not required to play the game after you've done all the verification and stuff, but you still need the cartridge in the console. The console needs to see that you still physically have the little game key card in order to let you play the digitally available game. That is what lets you sell it to somebody else, because as soon as that key card is no longer in your possession, it's like you don't have the game anymore, right? So the used game market is still protected in that way. As of right now, if you buy a digital game, you can't do anything. You can't sell it. There's no way to get rid of it. It is tied to your Nintendo account. So this is a new alternative to that. And I see why people would go, oh, okay, that's cool. But in my opinion, this is like my biggest problem with it. There's actually a couple problems. For one, depending on how old the game is, how much money have you gotten from a game store, like GameStop, for example, for trading in a game, right? Usually, you don't get anywhere near enough money to actually buy another game or even come close to buying another game. Usually, you have to trade 4 or 5 games before you rack up enough GameStop bucks to buy the new thing. Now, your mileage may vary. It depends on when you trade in the game and all this stuff. And it's even more frustrating because like the condition of the cartridge almost doesn't matter. Like as long as the key on the cartridge still reads, it doesn't really matter if it's scuffed up, right? Because the game isn't even on it. But you know these stores are going to say like, sorry, like this is used and it looks like garbage. So we're only going to give you $10 for it. I know you paid $80 for it, but it's barely worth $10. You should be thanking us. But the other thing that bothers me about this, even if you don't like to sell your games that often, is you're getting all of the downsides of having a physical game. The biggest one being you have to find it and make sure it's in the Switch to play it. And you're getting none of like the benefits of the digital game. You don't get to download it before it releases, so you can play it on the day it releases, the minute it releases, and you still have to have that physical cartridge. And if you're anything like me, sometimes you don't exactly know where's the little thing that holds all your games. That's a little thing. I know that like comes down to personal responsibility, but still a little bit annoying, right? But okay, let's just try to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt for a second, okay? Why do some games get this key card treatment and other games don't. If you're gonna print the plastic anyway, and you're gonna make me drive to the store to buy the plastic, why does it not at least contain a video game on it? Well, thanks to a PC Mag article, I think I found what might be the best answer to this. Let me show you this. So, like I said, this is from PC Mag. It's called Switch 2 Game Cards versus Game Key Cards. Just in case I don't put it in the description, I'll try to remember to do that. Check this out. So, they are saying that Switch 2 cartridges top out at 64 gigabytes. I didn't know that. That's very interesting news to me. I could retort and say that an SD card is a fraction of the size of a Switch 2 cartridge, and those go up to 2 terabytes now. Okay, we're giving the benefit of the doubt. There's a reason those cap out at 64 gigabytes. It probably has something to do with game engines and stuff that I don't understand. So fine. They cap out at 64 gigabytes, and we know, if you've been playing games for a while, that they've gotten larger, okay? There are games that are well over 100 gigs. So 64 gigabytes, to be fair, in modern day is not a lot of space for a game. So PC Mag is basically saying this is going to help publishers with huge games release their game cartridge on Nintendo. So you, as the customer, get to take this massive game file and play it as long as you have the key card. And then if you ever get sick of playing it, or the publisher does something heinous and they get canceled and you can't just stand to look at the thing anymore, you can delete it off your console, you can take your key card, and you can try to get some money back for that. So when you think about it like that, that is actually good. Because if the alternative was, yeah, we can't release our game on your console because your cartridges are too small, that would be frustrating. That Nintendo Direct had so many cool third-party games that were coming to the Switch that previously we assumed couldn't play on the Switch because of its really crappy performance specs. And now we have access to all these really, really cool games. And this might just be one silver lining of that, because it was either going to be digital only for those games or maybe not at all. So it was seeing this PC Mag article that finally got me to get a level head about this. I still think it is a heinous, horrible update, because what I would rather see is Nintendo try and get the technology up to speed so that those cartridges could hold many, many, many more gigabytes, terabytes even. But we're not going that route. This is the route they chose to go, and that's where I want to talk about physical media. This is like the big elephant in the room here. Physical media has been dying a very slow and painful death for the last 10 to 15 years. Like I said earlier, this is not the first studio to release what is essentially an empty game and just give it to you, and it's like a download code. And this has been pretty alarming. People have been trying to sound the alarm about this for a while, because here's why this is a problem. Maybe not today, maybe not 5 years from now, but there will come a point, I don't care if it's the heat death of the sun, there will come a point where you can't download that game anymore. The servers that host that game may not be around in the future for whatever reason. Let's say in the unlikely event Nintendo goes out of business. At the very least, if that were to happen, a physical game, you can still pick up and play it. You still own that physical piece of media and you can play it. So if there's no more Nintendo, maybe there's no more updates for you, but your physical copy of Pokemon Fire Red is still in your hands and you can still play this whenever you want. But let's say that your Nintendo Switch, for whatever reason, you had your SD card wiped and all of your games are gone. And so you're like, oh shoot, well, Nintendo's out of business. Let me grab my game key card and Nintendo's out of business. There's no one hosting that data anymore. We've all seen Nintendo end support for servers before. They were nice enough with the 3DS to let you download your game still. So even to this day, if you have a game and you paid for it and it's digital and you want to download it again because it's no longer in your console, you can do that, which is cool. But the reason I'm kind of panicked about it is because Nintendo doesn't have to do that. They should. Ethically, they should. But unless there's something I don't understand with the law, and maybe this would be great if I don't understand this, they don't have to. I don't think they have to. I think they could try to take it away from you and you could maybe sue them. But the reason I say this is because digital purchases, not rented movies, digital purchases of media have been wiped off of people's devices before. Warner Brothers did it, and Sony was forced to do it thanks to some contracts ending with their content providers. Media that was purchased on people's PlayStation, safe and sound, was removed from their libraries. As the title of this article says, you don't own the digital shows and movies that you bought. And that is my problem. Unless you go out of your way to maintain your old hardware and make sure that your digital media that is on there isn't deleted, that you make sure that your console doesn't overheat and melt one day, Like, that is basically the only way to protect some of the stuff that you've bought over the years from Nintendo and from all of these companies. The Switch 2 can do this today, and a lot of us are going to say, well, okay, this is where everything's been going, and just shut up about it. But 10 years from now, if you want to play this stuff again, it may not be available to you. And I'm not just saying that to be hyperbolic or raise any panic or concerns. I mean, just look at the Wii generation of games. I bought games on the virtual console of my Wii. I eventually sold my Wii, and then I got another Wii. And there's no way for me to get my purchases back. Maybe this was a limitation at the time that the Wii existed, but there was no unified account system that protected my purchases. As far as I can tell from the research I've done, they are gone. I bought another Wii because I'm just starting to get into game preservation and things like that. I'm buying a lot of weird stuff. I bought this thing, okay? What is this thing? Well, Pokemon Fire Red, remember that? Boom. You put this in there. This can do a couple of cool little tricks. For one, you plug it into your computer and you can take your save data from this cartridge and protect it. You can back it up. This is more important for older cartridges like this one, where there's a battery inside and it only really has like a 15, 20-year shelf life. And so once it dies, your save data goes along with it. But if you have one of these, you can protect your save data, which is really cool. But you can also take the game off the cartridge and rip it and play it on any emulator you want. So if your Game Boy is no longer functioning and maybe you're having trouble finding another one, doesn't matter. You take the game that you own and you rip it onto the thing, and then you can play it on a thing. You do anything you want, a Steam Deck, whatever. That's really cool. This will even play the games on it as an emulator built in. So you pop the game in, proving that you own it, and then it's like, oh, cool, I'll spin up the emulator for you. This is how you can start to preserve your game collection, because sometimes this stuff, even the physical stuff, can break. And I know that could be a counter argument to all the things I've been saying. Well, what if your physical thing breaks? Then you're back to square one anyway, right? At least with digital, there's like it's somewhere it's backed up for now. I get it, but we have the right as consumers to protect the things that we own. And I'm getting more and more into that. I've been trying to rebuild my GameCube collection. I'm trying to rebuild my old classic game collection, and it's been a headache. Buying these things used from third-party sellers is awful. Everyone charges an arm and a leg for just the most basic games. It's miserable, and I really do wish I never got rid of my collection. But as you can see, I didn't get rid of all of it. I kept the ones that were the most important to me, but the newer consoles, where they were just starting to introduce this option to download games, I did end up getting rid of those recklessly. And I don't have it anymore. And so I'm trying to be more careful. And the Switch 2 is going to make that harder to do. And it's not just the Switch 2. It's everyone. We're all on the same level now, right? Sony's doing it. Xbox is doing it. Everybody is giving us the option to not fully, truly own our stuff. So just to put a bow on this, the game key cards are, in the short term, great. It's a way to buy something and be able to resell it, whereas digital games, you can't do that right now. And that's really cool because sometimes the games will be very, very big and they won't fit on a cartridge anyway. Got it. Great. That's awesome. But at the same time, it was kind of tricky of Nintendo to only offer cartridges that hold 64 gigabytes and not maybe come up with some new technology to make those have a larger capacity, therefore being able to hold some of these really massive games that everyone's making now. This was a very convenient way to make sure that they get to control the ownership of our stuff. And for now, we can trust that they will honor their side of the agreement. But I think you've seen now that there's been times where companies don't honor their side of the agreement, and I'm worried about the world we are now entering into. As for what I'm going to do, I don't know. What happens now is that they kind of busted my plan of buying more physical games in the future. I was going to do that because of all the things I just told you about trying to protect my purchases from years ago. I didn't do that, and all this regret and blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know. I just don't feel good about buying the key cards because it's not protected. There's nothing there. If I never want to sell that cartridge, which I don't like selling my games. I like just hoarding them like a dragon on top of a pile of gold. I'm not holding on to anything though, so I'm probably not going to buy those. It looks like I will continue to have a very expansive library of digital games well into the future. And I think the only way that we can resolve a problem like this, a potential problem like this, is that we need regulation around it. We need companies to give us as consumers a way to protect our media. One last example before I go. Pocket Camp, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. They ran this game for years and it was online only, okay? So they were updating it all the time and there was all these microtransactions and all this stuff. So people have been paying them money for years and years and years. And then they announced, hey, we're not maintaining this anymore. We're done. We don't want to deal with this anymore. So we are abandoning this game. And then they did something that I don't think a lot of game companies would do. Instead of saying, hey, thanks for all the years of fun, goodbye, thanks for all your money. They said, we're going to make a version of this game that is completely offline. It's not going to get any more paid DLC. In fact, you won't be able to give us money if you want to. You will do a one-time purchase of this new game. You can take everything you've done for years on your current game and move it over to that, therefore protecting your digital purchases. If you buy a new phone, you can even go to your old phone and back up the stuff that you've been doing in this new version of the offline Animal Crossing Pocket Camp game, and you can download it onto a new device. So Nintendo will open up a little server for you for 7 days, and they will hold on to your game data, and they'll say, okay, get your new phone, here's your game data back. It's pretty nice. So to Nintendo's credit, I think they are innovating in the space of how do we protect people's digital purchases. I do think they are more or less the pioneers of that, but they are doing it purely, in my opinion, out of the kindness of their heart. Maybe to avoid civil litigation, or it's the kindness of their heart. I don't know. You be the judge. But that is not the standard. And as far as I know, I don't know. I barely know American laws. Maybe in Japan it's different. As far as I know, there's no law saying they have to do that. That's just them doing the ethically correct thing. So what I'm saying is, if digital only is our future, I want that Animal Crossing Pocket Camp treatment for everything going forward, for every game studio. And the way to do that is by changing the laws. But that is a topic for a channel that actually knows what the heck they're talking about, especially when it comes to the law. So we're not going to get into that, but thank you for watching. Subscribe if you like more rants about the video game industry, I guess, because that's kind of what I do on this channel for now.